Okay, we now welcome on a very, very, very special guest. He's the architect of 2 Super Bowl championships. It is our Grit Week interviews presented by Hey Dude. It is General Manager, Executive Vice President. Is that your official title?
You can call me whatever you want.
Okay, it is Howie Roseman. Howie, thank you for joining us. We start every interview Grit Week with the same question. I'm actually going to change it a little. How do you define grit in players you're looking at, and maybe how it shows up when you're scouting guys?
Adversity. You want to see how people are handling adversity, overcoming adversity, and that could be in different areas of life. That could be off the field, that could be on the field, but we know how hard it is to play in the NFL. We know how hard it is to play in Philly, and so we understand that there are going to be moments during the course of the season, moments during training camp where guys are going to face adversity, and what are they doing to respond to that? So we are looking for guys who have had adverse situations, overcome them, and you can go through our roster. It's funny because I was thinking about what I was going to say at the Super Bowl parade, and Bob Lang, our great PR guy, says to me, "Hey, you got to speak for a couple minutes," and I'm like, "What am I going to say?" And like the night before at like 11:30, I figured out. I'm like, every single one of our players, our coaches, our staff, I think myself, have overcome something in their life to get here. You just can go through the team. Lane Johnson was a JUCO quarterback, best right tackle to ever play the game. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, his team didn't want him. I mean, Devontae Smith, third receiver. I could go through every player on our team, and then I got hit in the head with a beer can and everything changed. But I think that's really how I would define grit.
Okay. I would say Jalen is a great example of that. Like the fact what he went through in college and how he responded to that, he just seems like the right type of person that you would want in your building. Is that like when you were breaking him down before the draft, was that a major factor in how you evaluated him?
And he kept getting better, and there was constant improvement. Like this guy was working on his craft. Every part of the process you saw from when he was a freshman, and people forget, like he was the SEC Offensive Freshman of the Year, like this wasn't like this guy hadn't had success. But everything that didn't work for him, he worked on to improve, and he continued that even like when you saw him at the Senior Bowl to the Combine. And it was the same for him when he was here, from the time that he came in during training camp, because that was the COVID year, we didn't have an off season with him. And then you saw him play towards the end of the year. He kept getting better and better. And so when you have guys who, you got to be talented, at the end of the day, like it's hard to play in the NFL. And so at the end of the day, all of these things are really important, but you got to have physical ability too. So he had those, and you looked at him and you saw kind of what was winning in the NFL and how successful he was even winning in college. And quite honestly, we didn't think he'd be there when we picked in the second round. It was kind of like, yeah, we like this guy. Probably not taking him in the first round, but this guy is still sitting there in the second round. That would be a gift. So I think that's kind of how we felt about it.
We were joking with Trevor Lawrence when we had him on the show a couple weeks ago that he didn't lose enough growing up to like be able to respond to adversity, which we were busting his balls about, and we were taking that seriously. But is there anything that you would ever look at a player and be like, I don't know how he's going to respond because he's just been on great teams his entire career?
Yeah, I think that when you're looking, if you're looking at a charmed life, and not a lot of people have a charmed life,
Right.
Especially as you get older, and these guys that we're getting, they're still 21, 22, 23, something in their life has happened to them that they've had to respond to, most of those guys. But I think you got to dig into that too, and some guys, are fortunate to have great upbringings, and just, the football gods have preyed upon them, freaking great physiques and great careers, and you don't want to penalize them for that either, but it's very few and far between that you find guys like that.
Yeah. You mentioned adversity. Your story is awesome. And I always never know what to believe when I'm reading up on someone on the internet. So you were a football fanatic from a very young age, playing fantasy football. What was the first year you played fantasy football?
Because
this is before it became big,
Yeah,
right?
it was before it became big. But I would say, like, I remember I grew up, my first experience with football, I was 6 years old, and the Jets and Dolphins played in the AFC Championship game, and A.J. Dewey had 2 interceptions on Richard Todd, and I was like crushed, and I don't think I missed a football Sunday from that time on. And when I was growing up, I wanted to play quarterback, in the NFL, and I realized really quickly that wasn't going to happen. But I loved everything about the game. I loved studying it, watching it, and this is the only thing I ever wanted to do in my life. And it was like, to everyone who was around me, it was so far-fetched,
Right.
because I didn't have any connection or anything. And I think I was just fortunate that at least I knew from an early age what I wanted to do. So at least, my psychopathic tendencies came out early,
Yeah.
so I could kind of, stalk people at an early age and try to get into the NFL. But obviously just fortunate to get an opportunity.
So the story goes that I read that you sat next to John Elway's father on a plane.
Yeah.
And he kind of gave you the time of day where he's like, you're 10 years old, but he's actually listening to you and being like, this kid knows football. And that almost like...
It changed my life. It changed my life because, I was going to visit my grandparents in Florida and sitting in the back of the plane, and I was reading like a draft preview, and I was wearing a Yankees hat, and he just kind of tipped my cap, and he said, "Oh, my son played for the Yankees." And I'm like, "Who's your son?" And he's like, "I'm like, John Elway." And he just sat and talked to me. At the end of the plane, he handed my mom a business card and said, have him keep in touch with me. I've never met a kid that young who's this passionate and knew so much. And of course, she threw away the business card, but I finally had someone who believed in me, and I held on to that for a long time. And the first time I met John Elway, I told him how important his dad was to me after one meeting. And
that's incredible.
Everyone needs someone to believe in them.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just a crazy circumstance. So, all right. So that happens when you're 10. And then I was reading more about how when you're trying to get in the NFL, you're writing letters to every team, trying to get your foot in the door, which is hard to do.
Hard.
Was it every single team?
It was every single team.
And what was the letter?
It was just like, I'll do anything. I want to work in football. I want to work in scouting. Give me an opportunity. I'm not asking for money. And I just would collect rejection letters, which was great because it was awesome because it really allowed me to not care in my social life, So if I'm like, shit, every freaking NFL team's rejecting me. How hard is it to go ask a girl out, And I got my wife, So it was a great lesson to me, about people are paralyzed by the word no, and you gotta get past it in life, A lot of people are gonna say you can or no, and so it was a great lesson for me, but it took a long time.
Yeah,
I heard that you would also send thank you letters for the rejection letters.
Yeah, that's how I got really my first
crazy.
call.
That's a cuck move.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Like thank you for your no.
Saying no.
But then that stands out to
in
them,
your
right?
head, though. You're probably thinking, well, if they see the thank you, then they might say yes.
Yeah, that's no doubt.
Yeah.
There was an ulterior motive. I'm sitting there and I'm going, maybe they think I'm really nice.
Yeah.
What I didn't realize was they thought I was a psychopath. They really did. And but that got me my first call from Mike Tannenbaum, who's the pro director with the Jets, and he basically called me. I had this at the time there was caller ID, and I saw New York Jets Football Club. And when I grew up, I was a diehard Jets fan, and so I see this and I'm like, which one of my boys is pranking me? This
Right.
isn't funny. And I'm like, hello. And it's like, hey, it's the New York Jets. And I'm like, yeah, that's funny, because at this time I was already rejected so much. And Mike got on the phone and he basically was like, I got 15 minutes for you. I'm calling you because I was looking through my resumes at the time. That's how you did them. And after every one of my resumes is like a thank you letter for me, basically saying we have nothing. So what's your deal? What's your story? So, and then I interviewed with the Jets with him and Coach Parcells, my first interview for a personnel job. And I didn't get the job. And I was talking here. They were giving me this keep us apprised of your plans, which is basically probably their letter they gave to everyone. And I made a connection with Joe Banner's assistant. I said, call the Jets. And Joe Banner called Mike and he goes, is he really a psychopath? And he's like, well, maybe you just interview him. He might be, and Joe interviewed me, found out I am in fact a psychopath, but for some reason hired me, and that's how I got started.
Awesome. And then in your growth, getting your foot in the door, you came on as kind of a salary cap guy. When did you shed the salary? I'm not just a salary cap guy, because I'm sure that was probably difficult to do.
Yeah, it was a different time, and so we started at the Vet, and Coach Reed had just started, and it was a really small organization. And within a year, we made a change to GM, and we brought in, a huge mentor to me, and may he rest in peace, Tom Heckert. And Tom was a young guy. We brought him in. I was a year in, and I was the only holdover in the front office. And so for him, he didn't know any different. So he'd be like, what do you do? I'm like, I do pro scouting, college scouting, cap. And he's like, all right, cool. maybe a little bit of a fib, but and then he started bringing in people like Ryan Grigson and Matt Russell and Jason Light and John Spytek and these GMs now and around the league and just the staff, and we were all like in our 20s, and we go to training camp in Lehigh and we'd hang out and we'd drink because there's nothing else to do till our staff meeting and just talk ball, and these are still some of my best friends in the world, and so I had this, like, I guess it's how other people go through work, and I guess you go to Google or Amazon, and I was surrounded by these unbelievable people, and Coach Reed, and think about how many guys on that staff became head coaches, and Jeffrey and Joe, and it was just we're all a product of who we're surrounded by, and I was surrounded by such great people who gave me the insight, and if I showed I could do something well, like Coach Reed used to say, listen, if you know the cap and you got that going on, I'll give you more, and then if you start finding players, I'll give you more. And that's what he did. I started doing pro scouting, and then I found a little niche there. And then he's like, you got to go on the road, I was like, I got to go on the road. I got it all in front of me. I got to go on the road. He says, you got to go on the road. And for 2 years, I was out on the road and doing 30 schools. And it was so smart by him, because it was like, you need to feel what your scouts are feeling. You need to feel the frustrations of missing flights and, going to schools that give you a lot of information, that give you little information. And, I'm very fortunate that I was around people who gave me the opportunities that they did to be well-rounded, and then, I got this GM job so young, but I was still surrounded by these great people. Obviously, Coach Reed and Jeffrey and Joe was our team president. And you think you know everything, then you get your ass kicked again.
Yeah.
Understanding the cap is something that it's completely eluded us.
No.
I think we have a general understanding of what a salary cap is, but like the finer points of it and how you can kick the can down the road, but then that can turn into cap hell. Like how did you learn the ins and outs of the salary cap?
Yeah, I think really when I got here, there was no one better in the league than Joe Banner. Like, he was unbelievable, and he was signing guys before everyone else was doing it. He understood it, and it was really like the early stages of the cap. And so I got a graduate degree in that and understanding it. And from my perspective, it's always about the players. We could do as many creative deals as we want. We could have as much cap room as we want, but we're not going to be any good if we don't have any good players, And so we got to get as many good players as we possibly can. For me, it's not about, winning some award for being under the cap or cap management. It's about having really good players and winning a lot of games. And so everything we're doing is in an effort to fit as many good players as we possibly can on every year's team as long as I'm here.
Yeah. How creative have you gotten with the cap?
Well, you know what? At this point, I got really good people on a day-to-day basis, and basically, I'm saying, like, let's figure out ways to get creative. Let's sit down and let's figure out ideas. Let's figure out ways. Let's keep as many good players as we possibly can, and also understanding that with that, we're gonna have to lose players over a period of time. Like, if you look at us since 2022, we were in the Super Bowl in 2022. Watch this: zero of the defensive starters are still on our roster. That's insane to me. And it's not like they're not playing in the league. We have 0 starters from that 2022 defense on our team, and we're 3 years later. So, there has to be a process where you're still kind of moving on and going forward. And that's the hard part of this. The guys that have done so much for this team, guys that you draft, that you care about as people, and you have to basically say, hey, we got to move on. And it's like, why me?
Yeah.
Why me? Well, you're keeping all those guys, So I think that's the worst part of the job.
Was there a cap rule, maybe like 10, 15 years ago that you were able to figure out before everyone else, and then they maybe closed that loophole? Because I always love that when front offices are thinking so far ahead that they end up having to change it because you figured it out before everyone else.
Yeah, I probably have to think about that a little bit, and again, I think the most important thing for us is, like, we have to bring talented players in. Like, none of this matters if we don't draft well, if we don't re-sign the right players, none of that matters. So, like, from my perspective, the cap is a huge tool, but again, it comes down to people, and bringing in the right people into your building, the right players into your building. And when you get a chance to draft guys, sign them, and see those guys, come in at 22, 23, single, and then retire with one team. They got kids, they got a family. They're like, hey, I'm staying in Philly for the rest of my life. I mean, it gives me chills talking about like that's special shit.
Yeah. Are you a Georgia merchant?
Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, shit. Fuck.
Yeah, you
fuck,
can say
fuck.
shit.
You
Fuck.
can say whatever.
All right, just making sure.
Are you a Georgia merchant?
What does that mean?
You just take players from Georgia. It's like not that hard, Howie.
Well,
That team's good. I'm just gonna take all their players.
I went to the University of Florida.
Okay.
So that's
wow.
Can't beat them, join them.
I know. It's fucked up. So I think from my perspective, it's like when you look at that Georgia defense that won the national championship, that was an unbelievably talented team, and to say like we go into the drafts and say, hey, let's go pick 3 guys from Georgia. Who knows what everyone else is going to do? It's worked out that way, but it's really helped our team because when you have young players on defense, chemistry is important, communication is important, and these guys have played a lot of high-level ball together. And so you have this young group of guys who have already that history together. So some of the learning curve is gone because of that. And it's kind of special to see. It's kind of special to watch, when Nakobe's playing linebacker and he knows what Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter is going to do and Nolan's going to do. And then he can look back and he sees Keelan. Like it's like they played together for a long time. You get the same benefit that you get from a defense that has been together for 3, 4, 5 years. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and also just the concept of drafting good college football players is a smart concept for you to bring into the NFL. It's like, yeah, these guys were national champions. I think they're probably pretty good.
Is he taking a shot at my?
No, he's being honest.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
It's very funny for people to overthink it and be like, wow,
Yeah.
he just takes Georgia players. But, I mean, they're pretty good at football.
Yeah, and I think, like, as a young and you know what? I'm sure, you guys are great, but experience does matter a little bit. You don't think that when you don't have experience. You're like, fuck that, I don't need experience. And then you get it. And it goes back to this grit part. Like, you got to make mistakes, and I make a lot of fucking mistakes. So for me, if I don't learn from the things I'm doing and correct them, then I'm not that smart. So you got to go back and look, where have I made mistakes? And I can tell you where I've made mistakes, why I've made mistakes. And if I do them again, well, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
Do you think that other GMs are afraid to pick up your call sometimes?
I would say, in all honesty, that my favorite trades are good. And I really don't, I hate that, because I'm really looking to give fair value. I hope not, because everything that I'm doing, it's a small fraternity. I mean, there's not even 32 of us because some GMs are owners, or other people or head coaches. So you look at it and it's like, you don't want anyone to get shit for a bad deal. I've gotten shit for a bad deal. It doesn't feel good. So if you can find win-win situations, if I have a need and you have a need and I can help fill it and it works, especially if you're in the AFC and we don't got to play you to the Super Bowl, that's a beautiful thing, and I think that's the key. Let's try to find something that works.
Are you addicted to accumulating draft picks? You have 13 coming up?
13.
Do you kind of go to bed at night and be like maybe like a little note under your pillow being like, I got 13 draft picks coming up? Because that's fun to have.
That's
a good number.
It's a good number. It's a good number. The chances that it stays that way before the draft next year are probably
you're going to get more, you're saying?
Or trade it now, whatever it takes. It's like it gives you an option to improve the team this year. It gives you an option to improve the team next year, maybe even the year after. I think the way it worked, the only upside to losing good players is the comp pick formula.
Yeah.
So we're able to get that, but lost a lot of good players for that. But what's really fun during training camp is when you get to watch college players now and you're like, I know the draft's in May, but this is a great time, especially a day like today where we have a walkthrough and you can watch college guys and go, man, I get to see that guy and maybe we got a chance at this guy, because of the amount of picks that we have.
Yeah.
Do you still ever get out on the road to see anybody in person?
I haven't the last couple of years, but my oldest son is going to college in the fall and it's going to give me an excuse to kind of go out. The last time I went out, I didn't go out all last year. The year before, in 2023, I went out to a couple schools, SEC. But I'll make it to the ACC this year. We got a Hall of Fame coach in the ACC now. My son's going to school in the ACC, so I'll get a little ACC action.
Okay. Can you still, like, to this day, is it so much different seeing somebody in person than it is watching all the film that you can get your hands on?
I think that at certain positions you got to see live, and you could see live at the Senior Bowl, you could see live at the Combine. When you're talking about a quarterback, like, you want to see that guy throw. You want to see how the ball comes off the hand. You want to feel the velocity. You want to feel the arm talent. You want to feel the presence, of that guy. I think that the information that we get, you can do so much work at your desk. We used to go to camp in Lehigh, and we didn't have all our systems set up. But it's fun. There's nothing better than going to a college campus and walking around and getting the energy that you get from it and going to practice. But, a great GM told me a long time ago, he said, it's hard, you never see the captain of the ship go ashore, and so he said, for his perspective, it was hard to get out during the course of the year. And that always stuck with me. I heard that in 2015, Ernie Corsi, what a great GM. Yeah. And he said that. And for me, it was like every time that I would go out as a GM, and I used to go out more in my first phase of it, the phone would ring and they go, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? And so you spend half your time on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your best draft pick?
They're like fingers on your hand, man.
Give me your top three.
Well, I'll tell you from my perspective, like what was really cool is my first draft was 2010. That was BG. My second draft was 2011. That was Jason Kelsey. My third draft was 2012. Fletch. My fourth draft was 2013. Lane. And then I got my ass kicked. Right. I got my ass kicked. I was out for a year. And those guys always stood by me.
Yeah.
They always believed. They always trusted me. They had always had my back. It would have been very easy for them when times were down to just kind of not do that. So those four guys have been with me so long. And so to not have those guys here, losing some of those guys, thank gosh we still have Lane. But those four guys, we had just been through so much together, literally life and death, births and families and championships. And so those guys are special, but that doesn't mean they're more special to me than, all the all-pro players we got on this team right now that I care about. It's just a cool, special story to have those four guys, before really we had the success. We had made the playoffs together and done stuff, but to see those guys win a world championship in 2017 together, special.
Yeah. When you say you were out for a year, did they actually move you all the way across the building?
Yeah.
That kind of sucks.
Yeah. It was humbling for sure. And for me, it was probably the best thing that happened to me because I was so fortunate early in my career to keep moving forward and be a young GM and to take a step back and to understand some of the things I did and some of the things I could do better. Certainly never thought I'd come back here and be the GM, but I got a chance to visit with so many great people, like unbelievable people, mostly in the sports world, but also in the business world. And I think it really shaped me to kind of help come back and, be fortunate to have some of the success we've had here.
What was your job title for that 1 year?
Didn't matter.
They just
It didn't.
they just picked one?
It didn't matter. It was really like, I felt like my most important thing was I had to support the people that counted on me, and a lot of us have been together, our security, everyone knows Big Dom, our equipment guys, our video guys, our training staff, like we have been together so long. And so like, for me, it was like, don't worry about me. If there's anything I could do to help you, just let me know, what can I do to support you? And I just felt like I needed to do that the right way. Like it was so important that I did it the right way and was positive and brought energy no matter how shitty I felt, So it was a great learning experience. And I think, again, like, I don't know that I would trade it for anything, even though, it did suck.
And you won a Super Bowl 2 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you worried that, like, if you have a couple down years that Jeffrey is like, we're going to move Howie across the building just out of like good luck, and then we'll win a Super Bowl 2 years later?
Yeah,
I would do that if I were the owner.
Oh, would you?
Yeah, I'd be like, wait, what worked last time?
Something about that building.
I think I'm over that. I think I'm going to keep fucking walking.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Did you think about leaving when that happened? I think most people would, right?
Yeah, I don't know that, I think the thing for me was Philly's hard. So I knew, how it came down kind of hard. It wasn't like I had job offers like being thrown at me during the time, because of how much shit I was taking. So I just felt like I had to deal with it. I had to deal with, again, like, to me, I dealt with adversity before, but to me, that was a huge lesson for my kids, the people around me. Like, I'm going to take this like a man. I'm going to be stand-up guy. I'm going to do whatever I can to help people who've helped me be in the position I am. And, we'll see where we are in a year. I didn't think that I would be in that role, for a long time. But again, I think it was really good for me. And it really reminded me of my values in football, what I was looking for. And a lot of the things that I did as a GM for those first 4 years weren't really consistent with how I had visions of really doing it. So, except drafting BG, Kelsey, Lane, and Fletch.
Do you think that that part of the shit that you take is because it's so fun to say "fucking Howie"?
Is it fun?
Yeah. Yes, it is very
fucking
fun.
Howie.
Fucking
It is
Howie.
fun. I'm gonna start saying
accent.
it.
Yeah.
Fucking Howie.
Yeah.
Fucking Howie. Let's hear it. Say it.
Max,
Say
give
it,
him
Max.
one.
Max.
Come on.
Fucking Howie.
No. That was a different fucking Howie.
You can do it in a positive way, right?
That fucking Howie that he just did right
Give him
there.
a-
That
give
was
him
the
a-
happy. That was the Howie.
Yeah.
did it
You
again.
told me to say fucking Howie. That's
No,
how.
but
No,
say-
but the way that you.
Here, I'll do it. Ready? Jalen Rager.
Fucking Howie.
Yeah, there you go.
There
Do you ever like think just in like daydreaming?
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson would have been saying.
I think that all my mistakes, everything that we've done has led us to a certain point. And what's the hardest thing is, like, I can tell you every pick of the picks in the 6th and 7th round, free agent signings, I fucked up. Like, my mind is so fucked up that's what I think about all the time.
Yeah.
I think about the mistakes and I'm like, man, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And at the end of the day, it goes back to your point. Sometimes you draft for need. Sometimes you draft for role, and you're going, man, we really need this role. We really need this position and this player. And that's all the times you mess up. It's just too hard to find good players. And when you start saying, like, I got to find this role, I got to find this position. And so now what I say is, like, a team's going to win the Super Bowl this year. Hopefully it's us, or our team last year. We weren't perfect. You could go before the Super Bowl. I'm sure you guys were saying, hey, I'm worried about this on the Eagles. The Chiefs won 2 Super Bowls before. I'm sure you're looking at their team and going, hey, this is their weakness. Every team's going to have a weakness. And if you think you're going to come out of draft and get every need fixed, you probably had a shitty draft.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you just got to take good players. It's so hard to find good players. You accumulate good players, hopefully at important positions, and everything else works out. And so I think, like, when I think about my mistakes, it's like going into an off season and saying, we need this, well, you can't make something up. You can't invent something, And so I think that is probably my biggest lesson in the free agent draft process. Like, if you go into it saying I need something, and then you change your grades, you change kind of your criteria for the position, you're probably going to fuck it up.
Is it intentional? Because I've noticed this with your drafts, and I'm wondering if it's intentional. But you have at times been like, hey, we're stacking kind of the same position, where it's now something that maybe was a weakness is a super strength because we have depth there as well. Is that an intentional thing? Like,
yeah,
hey,
no doubt.
We're not just going to be like, oh, we took a cornerback, so we can't take another cornerback.
Yeah, especially if we're talking like the third day of the draft. We'll double down on stuff, understanding that it's hard to hit on third day picks. So we'll double down on guys with unique skill sets who may need development. And I think from our perspective, the biggest problem you get into is if you don't take shots on those. I'll say to our staff, hey, we have a year or two before this becomes a big fucking problem. So we better if we don't get one early, we better take chance on guys who have traits, who have football character, who we think we can develop, because this is still a developmental league. And at the end of the day, when you look at it, there's no other profession. I love when I said I've never worked in any other industry. I've never gotten paid by another, but there's no other profession where you go into and you expect the person in their first year to be elite. And we do have those expectations. We expect the rookies to perform like veteran players and perform elite. And if they're not, they're shitty, And I think from our perspective, if guys have tools in their body, they have the mindset, they want to be developed with our coaching staff, with our performance people, with our developmental people, what can we get out of them? And you get a little cocky when you get a Jordan Mailata. You get a little cocky. You start going, man, we get traits and want to, and maybe something like that happens. Probably never happen again. But
Are you only a psycho like this about football, or are there other sports that you thought you might want to work in?
nothing else. nothing else. Always football. I mean, I liked playing other sports, but to me, the team building aspect, this sport, it was always that. You know, someone said that to me the year I was out. Hey, would you want to get involved in baseball or basketball? I love football. The every aspect of it, I love. I love the competitiveness. I love the talent level of our players. I love the skill level of the coaches in this. And the competitiveness, you know, and I really feel like it's the greatest game with the greatest people, and I feel very fortunate to be part of it.
You're pretty good at it. I'm curious to know, like, if you're making a phone call, and let's say there's a player on another team that you're interested in inquiring about, do you call and do you say, do you have an offer for them ready, or you do ask them, what would it take to get this guy?
Yeah, I will first. You know, I feel like a lot. I used to waste a lot of time watch a guy and then call. So most of the time I'll say, this is what I'm looking for. Would you be open? I haven't even watched the guy. And then I'll call back, and then I'll try to be direct on kind of compensation and where we're at on it. Because I like when people are direct with me. So if a guy's not going to be available, I don't want to waste the 3 hours to watch him, do work on him, do cohab on him, and do all that. I'd rather see when something's real and then work the shit out of it and try to bring it to a head.
That's
So
smart.
if Adam Peters called you up and said, I'm interested in Big Dom.
Probably the wrong example. Big Dom.
I'm interested in Big Dom. What would it take to get Big Dom?
Well, it's funny because it's funny you said that, because we did a coaching search and I take Big Dom with me. I take Big Dom with me wherever I can. You know, why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
it's fucking fun. We like food. I thought you were gonna ask me if I was passionate about anything else like football, and I was gonna say food.
Oh,
I think I have a tapeworm, undiagnosed tapeworm, but and we took him with head coaching interviews. I won't name the team, but after we hired Nick. Other coaches got hired from that coaching cycle that we interviewed. And one of the coaches I saw at the combine is like, man, I love Dom, you know? And the GM comes up to me and says, I'm going to take Dom from you. I'm like, oh, you are? And he goes, yeah, I'm going to take Dom. And he's like, I'm going to offer me, he gives me the number. And I go, my man, you are so far fucking off on Dom. I want you to go talk to Dom and offer that to him, knowing that Dom's going to go, what are you talking about? You know, but, you know, certain people just, you know, make this job even more fun than it is. And being with him and being able to do this with him and relying on him, you know, relying on him.
Yeah, because we obviously have fun with Big Dom. We know him, and he's a great guy, so welcoming. But like you've talked about it, you do rely on him for your draft analysis, where it's like, hey, take a look at this guy, let us know what he's made of, kind of thing. So he's actively like helping you guys out, where it's like, hey, I can figure out, you know, is this guy going to be wired the right way for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 22 years with Dom, me and Dom. And we started, you know, I started on the side of the table of the vet, and he started, you know, sleeping in hotel lobbies doing backup security, you know. So we started together, and we have an unbelievable bond. And again, like marriages, births, deaths, like we've been through it all. And so totally trust him with my life. And so from my perspective, he's got a great feel for players. You know, he understands players. He understands our players. He understands what we need, what I'm looking for. And so if I'm torn on a guy, I'm torn on the guy's fit, I'll send him down. You know, I'll say, hey, go to this school and go hang with this guy, go to the combine, spend an hour or two with this guy, and I need you to sign off on him.
Right.
You know, and I don't even tell him what he knows. I'm interested because I won't waste his time. But from my perspective, because I know if that guy comes in and has an issue and I haven't gone through it, well, it's my fault. You know, it's very easy for me to do. And all he wants to do is help this team win.
Yeah. Yeah. He seems like the best.
What about yourself? Do you evaluate yourself? And I would imagine that if you did, you're probably evaluated on different metrics from ownership than you might evaluate yourself on a day-to-day basis, right?
Yeah, I think for me, I have incredible passion for this. I go to bed at night thinking about our team and our roster. I wake up in the morning, think about it. You know, I go on vacation thinking about it. I love it. I have incredible passion for it. And I think that it's probably hard to work for me because I have incredibly high standards. And, you know, I know there's a lot of these books that talk about, like, you know, don't micromanage, you know, like give people the leeway to do it. Well, you know, I tell Nick, those are probably not people who have a Wikipedia page with their record on it. Like at the end of the day, we have a record, we win or we lose, and there's a right way to do things and the wrong way. And I feel like we have a process, and when that process gets out of hand, I get upset. I want it to be the right way because it is really hard to win in this league, and we're competing against great teams. And so, when it doesn't go that way, I'm going to take it over, and I want to be involved in every single thing that we do. I want to know everything that we're doing. There won't be a guy that we bring into this building that I don't watch, because at the end of the day, I tell our scouts, if you like a guy, tell me, and I will watch him. But we're not going to draft him if I don't know about him, because I don't want to stand up in front of God and everyone and talk about a player that I have no idea who he is. And that, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's how I feel. So from my standard, it's my responsibility. I got to take accountability when things don't go right. And I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm going to try my best to be perfect. And so the mistakes kill me, and I think about our process, free agency. If I could have had another guy and went another direction, I think about what I'm thinking about in that, why I made that decision. If I'm picking between two guys in the draft, I let the other guy go. I will follow that guy freaking religiously and beat the shit out of myself on it. And I want us to be great. I really do.
So how many does every scout get a stand on the table? Like this is my guy?
We do. We have a Red Star meeting where guys get to put a red star on one guy in the draft, and basically talk about why they're their favorite player. And that's character, play temperament, skill set. And it's really fun. It's a fun meeting to do. And we end up taking a lot of those guys, because those guys are easy to like. Our guys know what we're looking for. And so they're guys that are fun. And when we go through our drafts, you'll see our content team will always come up and they'll show a Red Star meeting and it'll be like, oh, we got that guy. Yeah, because those are the guys we're passionate about.
Does it have to be within the range of your pick? Because I would just cheat if I was a scout. And this year I would have been like Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
That's my Red Star.
Yeah. I love that. You got to bring a giant into Philadelphia country.
But do they have to be in the range?
They don't.
Oh, okay.
They don't.
So I
they
could
really
cheat.
don't. You
I
could
could just
cheat.
take the number one consensus pick every year.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't show a lot of growth as a scout.
That doesn't matter. I'm fine with plateauing. If I could work for an NFL team,
Arch Manning.
No problem.
Red Star.
Red Star.
Red Star guy.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
I know. But everyone's in the room. Our coordinators in the room. Our owners in the room. All of us are in the room.
Yeah, think about how sick it would be if they're like, "Oh, damn, Abdul Carter was pretty good."
I told everybody.
That guy's smart.
I mean, how do you think I react in that moment right there? I'm gone. I give that glare.
Yeah. Do you know that this
Howie.
show, fucking Howie, this show is actually listened to by a lot of scouts, which always shocks us whenever we go on the road. And they always are like, yeah, we just want to turn our brains off and listen to basically two guys be wrong about football.
Oh, yeah.
And I take that as a compliment.
Oh, you know what? We're on par with this. Perfect. I can join in. It's perfect.
But they're like, we're like, you listen to us, you know so much about football. We know nothing. And they're like, yeah, that's the fun of it because we just kind of laugh at
I'm glad I can
crazy things.
I can add to that. You know what? You know what's funny? When you were swigging that, I thought you were swigging mezcal.
Oh, that'd be wild. I was just getting hammered during this interview.
You brought a nice gift of mezcal for everybody. You couldn't get us drunk.
I'm excited for
appreciate
that.
that. Yeah.
Thank you. Phosphoro mezcal.
Dude, no.
Has anybody ever pitched you some crazy pseudoscience? I think I cracked the code to figure out whether guys are going to be winners or not.
Oh my gosh, I delete those emails.
Oh,
so quick.
We have
So
one.
quick.
You want one?
What we got?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, if you have long hair, you can't win a Super Bowl
As a quarterback.
Never been done.
Never been done.
Interesting.
Yeah. Think about
Something to think about, Howie.
Something to think.
So that's
about.
You
my
have
one
a quarterback now,
Deep
but
thoughts.
in 10 years, 15 years,
Deep
hopefully
thoughts.
Jalen plays for a long time. You're still here. Long hair quarterback.
Is it at any
never
point in their life? Or
No,
it's
could-
while they
when
have
they
it
want
because
it.
Tom
So-
Brady has had
Yeah,
long hair.
Right.
Ben-
So
Big
so if we get a quarterback with long hair 15 years from now, Jalen's career's done, and he comes in, I can tell him to cut his hair,
Cut it.
and then
Cut
we're
it.
good.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Fine
It's over.
tight.
These are the things we think
Bob,
about.
send me that email right now.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
remember this.
Candy
Why'd I
ass
just
uniform.
give you the key to the kingdom? Should have kept that one to myself.
Yeah, you should have.
Yeah.
I just like the draft advice that Bill Belichick said, which is I like drafting guys with big asses.
Yeah.
Look at do you spend time looking at guys' asses and be like, That's an NFL ass.
I really feel like that's a loaded question right there, so I'm gonna stay away from that one. Body types.
He's got a motor. He's got a motor.
Yeah, but you need a big ass. All right. Well, Howie, this has been awesome. I have one last question. Rowback question. RHOBACK.com. Promo code TAKE. 20% off your first purchase. Q-zips, polos, hoodies, joggers, shorts. Rowback.com. Promo code TAKE. At what point in the season?
Have you been an auctioneer in your past life?
Pretty
that
good,
was
right?
freaking good.
It's basically our play call.
Yeah.
So I have it down. It's the only one I can get. At what point in the season do you have to let go? Is that a weird question? Because I know obviously there's always fringe moves you can make, but is there a moment in the season that you're like, I kind of cooked it. Let's just see how it goes out. How it goes.
I always joke, I'll say to Nick, on roster cut day, once we do practice squads, I always go, I'll throw him my keys as I'm leaving that night. I'll throw him the keys and I'm like, here are the keys, you drive. And but that's not really true because we still got the trade deadline. I feel like it's really a trade deadline. After the trade deadline, it's like, this is what we got.
Is that a nerve-wracking thing or kind of a freeing thing?
It's a nerve-wracking thing because at the end of the day, shit happens in the NFL and you lose guys, and at that point you're all in, and you can't really do anything about it. And if something happens, you're going to have to find different ways to do it. And I think from my perspective, being in this so long, you've had times where you get to November and December and you lose somebody and you're like, damn, I wish the trade deadline was still going. But that's why we got depth. That's why we bring in a lot of good players, and that's why we have a team. And and so I think that's really the moment where it's just like, all right, I'm on to 2026, and this is what we got. It's interesting because last year we didn't make any trades at the trade deadline, which is unusual. I'm sure you were saying fucking Howie.
Yeah,
fucking Howie.
That was probably the last one.
Yeah, we don't really do that often at trade deadline. So
they should make it later. Because
teams
would get more desperate and there'd be more activity.
But they want to. I understand. They want to also keep interest alive. More teams in the playoffs. You don't want to do it. It's just like what you talk about. Nobody's making a trade that they don't think's in the best interest of their team. Nobody has some Jedi mind tricks shit going on that it's like, you will do this move with me, and then it's like it happens.
I think you just did it to me.
If there's anyone, it's you. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Way to get us off the set.
Yeah, you can take Jane Daniels.
Yeah.
But I think that that is a constant conversation. We moved it a little bit later this year, and we continue to have discussions like that because it is fun. You asked about other sports. I will watch the baseball trade deadline. Curious because I have a lot of friends who are GMs in baseball. What are they doing? How are they adding to their team? And I don't know all those players as well, but I love seeing how teams are doing that, how aggressive they get in an effort to win a championship. Because when that confetti falls, man,
it's got to feel pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Somebody just rip one?
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. That's what it sounded like.
We just got a good rip.
That was you, Shane?
Shane, did you just rip one?
In front of Howie?
Fucking Shane.
How could you do that? Thanks, Howie.